In life, we are often haunted by the weight of things we wish we could change, the unexpected loss, the missed opportunity, the silence from someone who once meant everything to us. We replay these moments endlessly in our minds, thinking that perhaps if we had tried harder, spoken differently, or acted sooner, the outcome might have shifted. And yet, deep within us, there's a quiet voice that knows the truth. Some things are simply not ours to change. Have you ever watched the ocean during a storm? The wind roars, the waves crash, and yet the ocean never resists. It does not fight the storm, it dances with it. This is the essence of Stoicism, not to be unmoved or indifferent, but to move with life, not against it, to recognize where your power ends and where surrender must begin. The ancient Stoic philosophers knew that control was a rare and sacred thing. Epictetus, born a slave yet revered for his wisdom, taught that while we cannot control what happens to us, we can always control how we respond. This was not just philosophy, it was survival, it was liberation. For in the heart of chaos, our true power lies not in changing the storm, but in calming our inner sea. Imagine a day in your life where you let go of trying to fix what isn't yours to fix, where instead of reacting with anger to someone else's cruelty, you respond with silence, where instead of worrying about what tomorrow will bring, you focus on what you can do with this very moment. How would that feel? Lighter? Freer? More alive? We live in a world that teaches us to strive, to hustle, to conquer. But Stoicism teaches something far more powerful: to discern, to know when to act and when to release, when to speak and when to hold peace, when to fight and when to bow in grace. This is not weakness. It is the highest form of strength. Consider the man who loses his job unexpectedly. Panic rises. Fear grips his chest. But then he remembers he cannot control the company's decision, the economy, or the opinions of others. What he can control is his mindset, his effort, his resilience. So instead of drowning in despair, he begins to build. He learns a new skill. He connects with others. He rises, not because life was easy, but because he chose his response. This is the power of Stoicism. It does not offer us control over the world. It offers us control over ourselves. And that, my friend, is enough to change everything. When you wake up tomorrow, remind yourself of this sacred truth. Your thoughts, your choices, your actions, these belong to you. The traffic, the weather, the moods of others, these do not. Draw a clear line between the two. Hold fiercely to what is yours, and let the rest drift by like clouds across a wide, open sky. Many people waste their lives chasing control over things they will never possess. They exhaust themselves trying to bend life to their will, only to end up bitter and broken. The Stoics whisper another way: flow with life, not in defeat, but in wisdom. Surrender not as a victim, but as a master who knows where real power lies. You will encounter days that test you, moments where nothing makes sense, where the ground feels like it's crumbling beneath your feet. In those times, come back to the breath. Come back to the center. Ask yourself gently, what part of this is mine to carry? And what part must I set down? The peace you're looking for isn't in controlling everything around you. It's in learning to control the one thing that truly matters: yourself. And when you finally learn to accept what you cannot change, to let go of the weight you were never meant to bear, something miraculous happens. You become light. You become free. You begin to see life not as a battle to win, but as a dance to join. The wind will blow. The waves will crash. But you will remain grounded, rooted, and unshakable. That some people spend their whole lives swimming upstream. They believe that to achieve peace, they must bend the world to their will. But every time they try, the river pushes back harder. Life is not a machine to be controlled. It is a current to move with, a breath to sink with, a rhythm to feel from the inside out. Have you ever held sand in your hand, only to see it slip through your fingers the tighter you clench your fist? That's what trying to control the uncontrollable feels like. The more you grip, the more you lose. But when you open your palm, the sand rests gently. Nothing is forced. Nothing is broken. It just is. And that is enough. A woman once stood at the edge of a hospital bed, her eyes fixed on a man she loved, machines surrounding his still body. There was nothing she could do to heal him, no word she could speak to undo the diagnosis. And for a moment, she was drowning in helplessness. But then something shifted. She took his hand, breathed deeply, and whispered, "I'm here." She couldn't change the outcome, but she could bring presence. And in that sacred presence, there was healing. Control is not about changing everything. Sometimes it's simply about being fully there, for yourself, for others, for the moment. It's in how you hold your pain, how you choose your next thought, how you continue to walk when you don't know the way. The modern world is addicted to outcomes. We measure worth by results, progress by perfection. But the Stoics saw things differently. They believed that the process, who we become as we act with integrity and clarity, is the true victory, not the applause, not the prize, not the approval of others. Imagine planting a seed. You water it, you care for it, you give it sun, but you do not yell at it to grow faster. You do not demand that it become a tree overnight. You simply do your part, and then you wait. You let nature unfold in its own time. This is how life works. And this is what Stoicism teaches us. Do your part, then release that sometimes what breaks us is not the event itself, but our resistance to it. We say, "This shouldn't have happened." We argue with reality. We build stories in our minds that only deepen the pain. But what if, instead of fighting the moment, we leaned into it? What if we asked, "What is this here to teach me?" A man once lost everything, his business, his savings, his confidence. But in that silence, in the rubble of what he thought defined him, he discovered something unshakable, his character. He rebuilt slowly from the inside out. And though he had less, he was more grounded, more wise, more free. This is a hidden gift of letting go. When you stop needing everything to go your way, you find peace in the way things are. When you stop forcing, you begin flowing. And in that flow, life brings you exactly what you need, often in ways you never expected. Control what you can, your words, your actions, your breath. But for everything else, let it be. The people who misunderstand you, let them. The plans that fall apart, bless them. The doors that close, trust them. Because what is meant for you will never require you to break yourself to receive it. And maybe that's the lesson we came here to learn. Not how to bend life, but how to bow to it. Not how to control every outcome, but how to meet every outcome with grace. You will still feel pain. You will still face moments of doubt and fear. Stoicism never promised comfort. It promised clarity. And with clarity comes a courage to keep showing up. Not because you know what will happen, but because you've made peace with not knowing. The greatest freedom isn't found in having control. It's found in no longer needing it. There's a quiet kind of strength in the one who no longer argues with life, in the one who rises each morning and whispers not "why me," but "what now?" This person has tasted sorrow, walked through uncertainty, and yet carries no bitterness in their heart, only a knowing, a deep, soul-earned understanding that some things are not meant to be changed. They are meant to be accepted, and in that acceptance, transformed. Maybe you know someone like this, or maybe once you were this person, the one who chose peace over control, silence over reaction, patience over panic. And though the world may never applaud this kind of heroism, the universe does. Quietly, steadily, it aligns itself with those who trust its rhythm more than their own resistance. Stoicism does not ask you to give up your dreams. It does not ask you to suppress your pain. It only asks that you make peace with what is before trying to reshape it, that you become so rooted in your own calm that no storm can uproot your spirit. And perhaps the most profound kind of calm is the one born after heartbreak, when everything you thought you needed has been stripped away and all you're left with is yourself. No masks, no noise, no illusions, just you and the question, who am I now? The Stoics would say this is where life truly begins. Not when we add more, but when we begin to subtract. When we release our grip on the things that never belonged to us in the first place. We realize that peace is not hiding in the next achievement, the next approval, the next distraction. It's here, in this breath, in this moment, in this gentle choice to let go. Letting go is not giving up. It is not weakness. It is the strength to look life in the eye and say, I see you and I trust you. It is the wisdom to know that control was never the goal. Connection was. Alignment was. Presence was. Have you ever tried to hold water in your hand? The tighter you close your fist, the more it escapes. But if you open your palm and let it rest there, the water stays. So it is with peace, with love, with meaning. They are not seized, they are received. And you can only receive them when you are still enough to listen. This is a lesson of the ancients, whispered across time. You are not the puppet of fate, nor its master. You are the dance. You are the harmony between effort and surrender, between doing and being. Yes, you must act. You must try. You must dream and build and fight for what matters. But once your part is done, you must also be willing to let go of the outcome. To say, I have given my best. Now I release the rest. And that is not passive. That is powerful. That is sacred. Think of a sailor out at sea. He cannot command the winds. He cannot still the waves. But he can adjust his sails. He can read the skies. He can choose his course again and again, no matter how many times he's thrown off track. And that, the Stoics say, is where mastery begins, not in force, but in flow. When you learn to live this way, something within you changes. You no longer live in fear of what might go wrong. Because even if it does, you know you will remain. Not untouched, but unbroken. Not untouched, but stronger. More whole, more real. You begin to see every challenge not as a curse, but as a calling. Every deeder not as a punishment, but as a redirection. And every moment of loss as an invitation to come home to yourself. Because in the end, the only thing you were ever meant to control was your own soul. And when that soul is steady, when it is anchored in clarity and trust, the world no longer needs to obey your plans for you to be at peace. Most people believe that peace comes after the chaos has ended, after the job is secured, the health is restored, the relationship mended. But the truth is, peace does not wait for the world to settle. It arrives when we do, when we decide, regardless of the noise, regardless of the uncertainty, that we will no longer carry what was never ours to bear, control what you can, accept what you can't. It sounds so simple, almost too simple. But behind those words lies a lifetime of practice, a soft, steady return to self again and again, because life will always offer you a new situation to test your resolve, a delay you didn't expect, a person who doesn't act as you hoped, an outcome that feels unfair. And in each of these, you will have a choice: tighten or release, resist or trust, react or breathe. In ancient Rome, a Stoic philosopher named Epictetus walked with a limp, a slave turned teacher. He understood suffering not from theory, but from living. And yet, when asked about hardship, he did not curse fate. He said only this: some things are up to us and some things are not. He repeated it like a mantra, a compass pointing to freedom. Because once you understand this, really understand it, you stop wasting your energy on what will never be yours to control. And in that stopping, you find space to grow. A young artist once poured years into a painting, only to have it rejected by every gallery. She nearly gave up, but then she remembered. Her job was not to be accepted. Her job was to create, to pour her soul into the work and let it go. Eventually, a small cafe offered to hang one of her pieces. Months later, a traveler from abroad saw it, fell in love with it, and commissioned an entire series. But even if that had never happened, she would have already won, because she stayed true to what was hers and released what was not. This is what Stoicism gives you. Not a perfect life, but a resilient one. Not the absence of pain, but the power to walk through pain without losing yourself. Because when you begin to sort your life into two baskets, what's mine to carry and what isn't, everything gets lighter. You no longer drown in things you were never meant to fix. You stop trying to control people who are determined to misunderstand you. You stop clinging to plans that were never meant to unfold the way you imagined. And in that lightness, your true strength begins to rise. Strength is not loud. It does not announce itself with noise or force. Real strength is quiet. It's the woman who forgives someone who never apologized. It's the man who lets go of a lifelong dream, not out of weakness, but because he's discovered a truer calling. It's the child who cries and still gets up. the elder who watches their body weaken, yet speaks of grace instead of regret. These are the warriors of stillness, the unsung heroes of surrender. And whether they know it or not, they live the Stoic way. They have stopped trying to predict the wind and instead learn how to sail with it. When you give up the illusion of control, something magical happens. The world becomes softer. You begin to see beauty even in the broken places. A flower growing through concrete. The smile of a stranger on a hard day. The sunrise that comes not because you earned it, but because it always does. You begin to trust that life is not against you. It's just unfolding. Sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes painful, sometimes beautiful, but always moving in the way it needs to. And your only real task is to stay open. Open to what is, open to what can be, open to yourself. You don't have to hold the world together. You only have to hold yourself. And even then, not with force, but with gentleness, with compassion, with patience. Because like all living things, you are still becoming, still learning how to bend without breaking, still remembering that even in your worst moments, you are allowed to breathe, to rest, to begin again. And so here we are, at the quiet end of the road. We didn't know we were walking. Perhaps something in you has shifted, not dramatically, not loudly, but gently, like the way dawn replaces the night. Not all at once, but gradually, with a soft light that makes everything feel new again. You see now, don't you? That the most powerful thing you can do in this life is not to fight the current, but to become the river. To understand that control is not domination, but discernment, the sacred knowing of what is yours to shape and what is not. And once you know that, once you feel it deep in your bones, the war within you begins to quiet. You no longer chase peace. You become it. You walk through your days with steadiness that others will sense, even if they don't understand. They'll wonder why you don't react like they do, why you don't cling, why you don't spiral. And they won't know that it's because you stopped needing the world to behave in order for you to feel safe. You stopped outsourcing your peace to things you can't hold, and you've come home to yourself. Maybe the storm will still come. Maybe the ground will still shake, but your roots will hold, because now you know the only thing you were ever meant to master was your own mind, your own choices, your own response to whatever life places before you. And in mastering that, you've already won. So let the world spin. Let the winds rise and the tide turn. Your work is not to stop them. Your work is to remain, to breathe, to feel the ground beneath your feet and know this too is part of it. This too will pass. And through it all, you are still you. Grounded, aware, at peace. You are no longer a prisoner of circumstances. You are free, and that is the quiet power of a Stoic life.